When I started to learn about investing as a UK investor, there were two main funds which I kept hearing about, the FTSE 100 and the S&P 500. So then I started thinking, well, which one should I invest in? Should I invest in both? Does that make sense? Should I invest in one over the other? Can I even invest in the American market when I am living in the UK? So just to clear it up, the FTSE 100 tracks the UK's top 100 companies, and the S&P 500 tracks the US's top 500 companies. Oh wait, actually it tracks the top 505 companies. The name wouldn't give that away. So I ended up opting for the FTSE 100 as my first ever investment on Vanguard back in 2019. Over time, I put more and more money into the FTSE 100 fund, but then I began really learning about the importance of diversification when it comes to your investment portfolio. So this led me on to doing some more research and actually making investments into the S&P 500. Up until quite recently actually, and you'll be able to see if you look back on my Vanguard portfolio update videos, I had the largest weighting in the FTSE 100, meaning that I had the most money in that fund. But actually I've since rejigged my portfolio a little bit and I have the most in the S&P 500. So I'm not a financial advisor by any means, and I'm not trying to advise you on where to put your money. However, if I personally had to choose just one of these funds to put all my money in, I would pick the S&P 500, and here's why. Well, firstly, the US market is the largest in the world and takes up over 50% of the entire world's market, whereas the UK only takes up about 4%. So my thoughts are, why wouldn't you put your money where the majority of the world's market is? The FTSE 100 has a market cap of £1.6 trillion, which sounds like such a lot. But just for comparison purposes, the S&P 500 has a market cap of $25.6 trillion. So let's just break this down a little bit more. Microsoft, one of the largest American companies and one of the biggest companies in the S&P 500. This company has a market cap of $1.3 trillion. So one American company has the same market cap as pretty much the entire FTSE 100. So the next thing to consider when deciding whether you should invest in the S&P 500 or the FTSE 100 is to see their performance over time. But one important thing to remember is that past performance doesn't indicate future performance. But let's just have a look at a graph between 2010 and 2020 and just compare their performances. We can see that the S&P 500 gives a lot higher returns than the FTSE 100. Having said that, the FTSE 100, looking at this graph, does seem to be more stable and a little bit more predictable. Another thing that I would say, looking at these graphs, is that following a financial crisis, like the one in 2007-2008 when the stock market crashed, the US market tends to rebound a lot better. We can see this by the sharp incline that the S&P 500 saw following 2008. It seems like the US market has a really strong recovery rate. And that, for me as an investor, is a really reassuring thing, because if I put my money into something, I want to know that that money is not going to be gone forever. And should the stock market crash over time, I will see growth on my money. The next thing that I would say is to really consider the companies that actually make up the FTSE 100 and the S&P 500. In the S&P 500, we see a lot of the world's largest tech companies. You have the likes of Microsoft, Tesla, Facebook, and so on. Whereas in the FTSE 100, you have a right mix of banking, pharmaceuticals, consumer goods, and oil and gas companies. I think you really need to think about where you believe the future is going and which companies will see the biggest growth over the next few decades. And in my opinion, it's going to be the tech companies that continue to grow. That's the way the world seems to be going. As I said earlier in the beginning of this video, the S&P 500 confusingly has 505 stocks, and actually the FTSE 100 has 101 stocks. This is because some companies such as Royal Dutch Shell and Alphabet have several classes of shares. This means that the FTSE 100 naturally is going to be a more concentrated index, but the extent of that concentration might actually surprise you. The top 10 companies make up 42% of the FTSE 100, whereas the top 10 companies in the S&P make up 27%. So as an investor, you may want to think about whether that sits right with you and whether you feel comfortable putting your money into an index that is split up like that. It's entirely up to you, obviously, and I do have holdings in both the S&P 500 and the FTSE 100, but it's just a little bit of food for thought. Having said so many positive things about the S&P 500 up until this point in the video, the FTSE 100 could actually be a right bargain and could be worth it in the future, especially with energy prices rising. However, low price isn't always a reliable indicator of good value. For me personally, when it comes to my investments, I will continue to diversify as I really believe that that is important. But for now, I'm very happy with holding the majority of my portfolio in the S&P 500. I really hope this video was of use to anyone watching. If you liked it, please give it one of them thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content in the future. Follow me on Instagram at Haleys_hacks. And if you're interested in making a free trade portfolio, please use my referral link in the description below. You'll get a free share and so will I. A few things have changed with free trade lately. There is now a form to fill out as well, but it's very simple and all the information will be in the description box. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.